"Enjoy your swamp, Shrek," my sister-in-law sneered, standing in my living room. I brushed off her insult at the time. I had no idea that in a matter of weeks, that same woman would be trying to erase my life. A month ago, I answered a phone call that sent chills down my spine. It was a representative from my mortgage company, double-checking if I truly wanted to cancel my automatic house payments. I hadn't made any such request, but someone posing as me had. Someone out there had my personal details, was imitating my voice, and was trying to erase my life one piece at a time. At first I thought it had to be a mistake or some random scammer. I never imagined the truth, that the person trying to ruin me was family. I'm a 32-year-old guy who finally got something to call my own after years of struggle. Growing up, my younger brother Dan was the golden child. My parents bent over backwards to give him everything while I got the scraps. If Dan wanted something, he got it, even if it was at my expense. When we were kids, he once broke the gaming console we shared, and I was punished for not taking better care of it. If I ever stood up to him, my parents told me to suck it up and stop being jealous. It was clear that in our household, Dan came first. Me? I was mostly on my own after high school. I couch surfed between friends' sofas, even spent months living out of a beat-up camper in my truck while I struggled to find work, and my parents made it clear I was on my own. It was humiliating at times, but those years taught me resilience. Eventually, I clawed my way back to stability with a new job and some hard saving. Earlier this year, I achieved a lifelong goal. I bought a small 3-bedroom house for myself. It's nothing fancy, but it represents freedom and security, things I never had under my parents' roof. Every corner of that house was mine, from the tiny backyard where I could plant a garden if I wanted, to the spare rooms I could finally turn into a home office or guest space. I'd never had that kind of breathing room in life, and it felt amazing. Not everyone was happy about my new house. A few weeks after I moved in, my family showed up uninvited at my doorstep, practically pushing their way inside for a tour. My parents, my brother Dan, and Dan's wife, my sister-in-law, Sil, crowded into my living room. They acted like rambunctious tourists in a museum, opening doors and commenting on everything. Sil had this smug, almost hungry look on her face. She glanced at my modest furniture and the camper parked out back and snickered, "Cozy," in a Shrek's swamp kind of way. I forced a polite smile. I thought her ogre jab was just a petty insult, her way of mocking my years living in that camper. I had no idea it was a warning shot of worse to come. As we walked through my house, I kept hearing how I had too much space for a single guy. My parents kept saying it wasn't practical for me to have 3 bedrooms all to myself. My brother noted how my place was closer to his job than our parents' house, where he and Sil currently live with their 4 kids. Red flags started popping up. Finally, Dan asked to speak to me privately. Everyone else suddenly left the room and piled out onto the front porch. That's what finally made me realize they'd planned something. My heart was pounding as I hit the record button on my phone and slid it into my pocket. I had a feeling I'd want proof of whatever was coming next. My brother, let's call him Dan for simplicity, dropped the bombshell. They wanted my house. He explained, or rather declared, that I should let his entire family move in with me. Actually, not with me, in place of me. He suggested I could live out in my camper in the yard while he, Sil, and the kids take over the house. He talked as if it were a done deal, listing which room would be for the kids, how I'd need to follow house rules like knocking before entering my own home. It was absurd. I finally found my voice and told him absolutely not. This is my home. I bought it for me. I said it loud enough that the people on the porch went silent. Sil marched back in, eyes already welling with crocodile tears. Her favorite tactic whenever she wanted to play the victim, and scolded me for breaking her poor baby's hearts. My parents followed, starting to quietly chastise me for not considering family. It was 3 against 1, but I stood firm. I told them, "I'm sorry they're cramped at my parents' house, but I earned this home and I'm not giving it up." Dan lost his temper and yelled that I don't deserve a house because I have no wife or kids. He actually shouted that I don't need all the space and I may as well give it to him. I shot back that he never even offered to pay rent. If I let him move in, I'd be covering the entire mortgage while not even being able to live in my own house. He told me he shouldn't have to pay rent because family comes first, and our parents chimed in that I would do this for Dan because they said so. I yelled that they did not have the right or power to hand over my property to someone else. Things devolved into a shouting match. Syl was furious, shrieking that she was pregnant again and I can't do this to her. I responded that I did nothing to her, she just assumed she could take and take from me. I had no obligation to her or her family. I wasn't budging. I told them all to get out before I called the cops. At that, Syl completely snapped and lunged at me. She actually managed to scratch my face once before Dan restrained her, holding her back as she kicked and screamed. She was feral, demanding he let her go so she could claw my eyes out. All of this was caught on my phone recording, by the way. I shouted that I was calling the police if they didn't leave immediately. My parents quickly ushered Sil and Dan out while she continued to scream and sob. As they finally backed out the door, my mother hissed that I had a week to come to my senses. I told her it's my house, and I won't be changing my mind, ever. I also held up my phone and warned Sil that I had recorded everything. If she tried to hurt me again, I'd press charges for assault. She let out one last banshee wail and stormed off, crying dramatically into her hands. With that, they were gone. I thought that was the end of it, just another wild family blow-up. I barricaded myself in my quiet home that night, determined to enjoy the peace I fought for. Little did I know, the real battle had only begun. Not even a week later, small oddities started popping up in my life. For the first few days after that blow-up, I actually thought things might calm down. But I was wrong. Before a week had passed, the problems began. First, I got an email from the post office confirming my request to forward my mail to a new address. I hadn't made any such request. I canceled it immediately and double-checked that my mail was still coming to my house, chalking it up as a clerical error. A couple of days later, my pharmacy called about a refill of my prescription, just confirming you picked up your medication last Tuesday. Let us know if you need anything else. I was baffled. I hadn't picked up anything. On that Tuesday, I was busy all day at work. By the time I called back, they said the meds were already collected by me in person. I live alone, and I'm the only one who should have authority to get those meds. I began to feel a prickle of anxiety. Was someone impersonating me for something as silly as a cholesterol prescription? It seemed far-fetched who would go to the trouble for that. I changed the pickup password at the pharmacy and alerted them that someone else might be pretending to be me. It sounded paranoid even to my own ears. Honestly, I wondered if it was just a mix-up with a similarly named customer. But I couldn't shake the feeling that these weren't random mistakes. My gut was telling me that someone, somewhere, had it out for me. In the back of my mind, I already had a suspect, or rather, suspects. My brother and Sil were the only ones who had a clear motive to mess with my life after our blow-up. But would they really stoop this low? Using my name to pick up my stuff? Trying to reroute my mail? It seemed unthinkable that family would do that. I decided not to point fingers without proof. Still, I started paying very close attention to anything related to my personal information. I had a lot to lose now, my money, my home, and my hard-won independence. If some impersonator could cancel my services or hijack my accounts, they could upend my entire life. I wasn't going to let that happen. I had to protect what was mine, even if the threat was coming from my own flesh and blood. My uneasy feelings were soon justified. Over the next week or so, a cascade of strange security alerts nearly sent me into a panic. One night I was jolted awake at 2 a.m. by my phone buzzing. An automated email from my bank said, "Your password reset code is 439721. If you did not request this, contact us immediately." I hadn't requested anything. My heart pounding, I checked all my financial accounts. Someone had tried to reset my online banking password. I spent the rest of the night changing that password, enabling every possible security feature, and making sure no unauthorized transactions had occurred. Thankfully, none had. Yet, the very next day, my phone suddenly lost signal for an hour during lunch. I called my cell provider from a coworker's phone, and they informed me that my SIM card replacement had been activated earlier that day. I was floored. I hadn't replaced my SIM. Someone tried to hijack my phone number. Luckily, the carrier flagged it as suspicious when I confirmed I never requested it. They restored my service and advised me to add a PIN code to my account to stop any future SIM swap attempts. I did so immediately. I remember sitting in my car after that call, hands trembling. This was no accident. Someone was systematically trying to worm their way into my life. My email, my bank, my phone. Each incident on its own could be written off, but together, it painted a terrifying picture of full-blown identity theft in progress. I started double-checking every account I had. I added two-factor authentication where I could and combed through recent activity. I found login attempt alerts from one of my email accounts that I didn't recognize. Even my social media threw up a warning about an unrecognized device login attempt from a city I don't live in. It was like I was under siege online, and I still had no solid proof of who was doing it. A hacker halfway across the world? A disgruntled ex? My mind went everywhere. There was one ex-girlfriend from a couple of years ago who left on bad terms. For a moment, I wondered if she might be deranged enough to do this. But she lived across the country now and wouldn't have had access to detailed info like my pharmacy or mortgage accounts. It just didn't add up. I even briefly considered if some other person I'd crossed might have it in for me, but the scope of the attacks, from my pharmacy to my mortgage, didn't fit any of my past relationships. The simplest explanation kept circling back to family. As painful as that thought was, I couldn't ignore it. The trouble started right after I defied them. Then came the most alarming call yet. I was at work trying to focus despite everything when my cell phone rang. It was a number I recognized, my mortgage company. I stepped outside to answer. The representative on the line sounded hesitant. "Hello, we just wanted to verify that you indeed requested to cancel your automatic mortgage payments." My stomach dropped. Cancel my mortgage auto pay. I felt the blood drain from my face. I told the rep, no, absolutely not. I never made that request. She apologized and said it raised a red flag because it was unusual. I hung up and just stood there on the sidewalk, feeling sick. If that cancellation had gone through unnoticed, I could have missed a mortgage payment, the last thing I needed. One missed payment can snowball into late fees or even foreclosure if you're not careful. It felt like whoever was doing this wasn't just trying to inconvenience me, they were trying to put me out on the street. I realized in that moment that if one more service vanished or one more crucial account got sabotaged, I'm not just embarrassed, I'm homeless. That chilling thought rang in my head. This had moved beyond pranks or harassment. This was an existential threat to my home and future. After that close call, I was filled with resolve. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for the next attack. I spent the rest of the day in full lockdown mode. I called every major company that I had accounts with, bank, credit card, mortgage, insurance, utilities, you name it, and put them on alert. I set up secret vendor passwords with anyone who offered it so that no changes could be made to my accounts without that code word. For accounts that didn't support a password, I insisted that any changes must be done in person with photo ID. Most companies were cooperative when I explained I was dealing with identity fraud. It was exhausting, but I felt a small sense of control returning. As I spoke with these companies, I discovered even more evidence of the attacks. My electric utility company told me that someone had called pretending to be me just 2 days prior, inquiring about my account status and trying to remove my name from the bill. The caller had hung up when they failed the identity verification. The lady on the phone clucked sympathetically when I told her that imposter wasn't me. My internet provider noted that a person who didn't know my account PIN attempted to cancel my service, but thankfully they refused without proper verification. It seemed that every major service tied to my name had been probed or tampered with in the span of a week. I sat at my kitchen table after finishing all those calls, absolutely shaken. The scope of this was overwhelming. Mail, phone, email, bank accounts, credit cards, utilities, insurance, even my property tax records. My entire life was under siege. I pictured the worst-case scenario. Coming home to a cold, dark house with the electricity cut. Finding my credit cards maxed out. Maybe even a foreclosure notice on the door, all orchestrated by someone who knew exactly how to hurt me. Whoever was doing this wasn't after a quick cash grab like most identity thieves. This felt personal. They didn't open new credit cards to buy things, at least not yet. They tried to shut down the things that kept my life running. They wanted to cripple me, not just steal from me. That night, I barely slept at all. Every time my phone buzzed with an email or alert, my heart jumped into my throat. Lying in the dark, I kept imagining what else this imposter might try next. My overtaxed brain replayed every incident on a loop. By dawn, one thing was clear. I couldn't keep living like this, waiting for the next hit. I needed to end this nightmare once and for all. At this point, a cold certainty settled in my gut about who was responsible. Identity theft is when someone uses your personal information to pose as you. Usually, it's committed by a stranger, but sometimes the thief is someone alarmingly close. The relentless focus on my house, my utilities, and my day-to-day life pointed to someone who knew me very well. My prime suspect was suddenly clear: my own sister-in-law. She had the motive, revenge, and personal gain, and after that day they barged in, she likely had the means. I remembered how Syl had roamed my house unsupervised during the tour, flashing that creepy smirk. I wouldn't put it past her to have dug through papers on my desk, peeked at my mail, or even snapped photos of my personal documents when I wasn't looking. Anything she could use to impersonate me. And all those attempts were targeting the very thing she'd stand to benefit from if my life fell apart, like my house. Still, accusing a family member of something as serious as identity theft is not something I took lightly. I needed rock-solid proof. I needed to catch her in the act or gather undeniable evidence before confronting anyone. If I went to my parents or brother with mere suspicions, they'd surely defend her. They always did. So I took a deep breath and planned my next steps very carefully. For a few days, things were quiet. I kept my accounts on lockdown and waited for the next shoe to drop. It didn't take long. I started getting hints that my impersonator had switched tactics from tearing down my existing life to trying to create new debt in my name. A friend from my old neighborhood texted me that a credit card offer had shown up at the address I used years ago where he still lived. It was from a bank I didn't use, congratulating me on opening an account and offering a balance transfer. I hadn't opened any new accounts. My stomach knotted up. Was someone trying to open credit lines under my name? I pulled my credit reports immediately and, sure enough, found inquiry hits from 2 credit card companies I never applied to. There it was, in black and white. Someone was running up hard checks on my credit, likely trying to get a card approved. I spent an afternoon on the phone with the fraud departments of those companies, flagging the applications as fraudulent. Then I contacted the 3 major credit bureaus and set up a fraud alert on my profile. A fraud alert is a free notice that tells lenders to verify your identity thoroughly before opening any new account. You only have to contact one of the 3 bureaus, Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion, and they notify the others. I figured that would slow this imposter down, since any new credit application in my name would now trigger a call to me for confirmation. Just when I thought I had seen every angle of this attack, I discovered an even more alarming attempt to undermine me. While double-checking all my important accounts, I logged into the county website for property tax information on my house. To my shock, the mailing address for my property taxes had been changed from my house to my parents' address. There was actually a note about a requested mailing address update dated just a week ago. I hadn't requested that at all. Someone wanted my tax bills and any delinquency notices sent to my parents' home, where my scheming sister-in-law could easily intercept them. If I hadn't caught that and a tax bill went unpaid, I could have ended up with a lien on my house, or worse. I realized what her twisted endgame might be. If I defaulted on my mortgage or tax payments long enough, I might be forced to sell the house or lose it at auction. And who would be waiting to pick up the pieces? My family. In her mind, sabotaging me was a means to an end. She thought she could drive me out and then somehow claim my home for her brood. That was the last straw. This wasn't just annoyance or even harassment, it was full-blown sabotage of my financial standing. My hands were shaking with anger as I dialed my brother's number. I tried to keep my voice calm when he picked up. I told him I was dealing with serious identity fraud and asked if he had heard or noticed Syl doing anything unusual. He immediately got defensive. "Why are you dragging her into this?" he snapped. I took a breath and explained that every attack was centered around things that would benefit him and his wife, my house, my money, my credit. There was a pause. Then he exploded on me. How dare I accuse his wife of a crime? He shouted that I was crazy, that I have always hated Syl, and now I'm trying to blame her for random internet thieves messing with me. I could hear Syl in the background escalating into hysterics. I would never ever do such a thing. How could he accuse me? She sobbed dramatically, as if I had wronged her. It was all an act, and I knew it. The call devolved into a yelling match, with my brother hurling obscenities and my parents, who must have been listening nearby, taking the phone at one point to scold me for upsetting the mother of their grandchildren. I hung up on them, furious and frustrated. Trying to discuss it with my family was a dead end. They were either truly ignorant or flat out in denial. Desperate for some validation, I rang up my closest friend and spilled the whole story. He was shocked and disgusted, but not entirely surprised. He remembered how my Syl treated me in the past. "It all fits," he said grimly. "Who else but her?" He urged me to be careful and gather as much proof as possible. He even half-jokingly offered to come over and pose as my attorney if I needed backup for a confrontation, which gave me a much-needed laugh on an otherwise miserable day. It felt good to have someone on my side when my own family wouldn't. At this point, nearly every aspect of my life had been targeted: my finances, my utilities, my credit, and even my property records. I had shored up defenses everywhere I could, but I still didn't have that one piece of evidence that would expose the culprit without a doubt. My family was circling the wagons around SIL, and without proof, I'd only be vilified for accusing her. Here's where things stood. I was fighting an invisible enemy who wore my face, and time was against me. If I didn't put a stop to it soon, I could lose everything I'd built. I realized I needed to catch her red-handed, in the act of impersonating me. Only then would my family have to face the truth. As it happened, my father's birthday was coming up that weekend, and my parents, perhaps trying to paper over the previous drama, invited me over for a small family gathering. My gut told me Syl would be there, and if I was right about her involvement, she might not be able to resist attempting some mischief if I let my guard down. That Saturday, I arrive at my parents' house for my dad's birthday dinner. The atmosphere is uncomfortable, to say the least. My parents greet me warmly, but with a hint of, "We hope you behave," in their eyes. Thankfully, their 4 young kids were left at home with a sitter. It was an adults-only dinner, sparing the little ones from any potential drama. My brother gives me a stiff nod. "And SIL?" Well, she actually smiles sweetly and says, "Glad you could make it." Butter wouldn't melt in her mouth. I play along, acting cordial. Inside, I'm on high alert. I keep my cell phone in my pocket and my smartwatch on my wrist, set to vibrate with any notifications. If Syl is indeed the one behind this, I suspect she might try to get at my phone somehow during the evening. Dinner is a tense affair, forced polite small talk punctuated by long, awkward silences. We chat about superficial things: the weather, my dad's retirement plans, the latest show my mom is binge-watching, anything except the elephant in the room. I catch my parents shooting worried glances whenever a lull hits. Everyone is pretending everything's fine, but under the table my leg is bouncing with nervous energy. I notice SIL casually glancing my way whenever I pull out my phone to check a message or when I step away for a moment. I stay vigilant, never letting the phone out of my sight for long. After dinner, my mom insists on showing me some old family photo albums in the living room, a not-so-subtle attempt to thaw the ice. I sit on the couch flipping pages and reminiscing politely. My phone is on the coffee table in front of me. At one point, Mom calls me over to the kitchen to taste-test the birthday cake icing she's making. I hesitantly leave my phone on the coffee table and walk 2 rooms over to the kitchen. It's only a minute of tasting and nodding that the icing is fine, but when I come back, my phone is gone. My pulse spikes. I try to stay calm. Did anyone see my phone?" I call out. My brother and dad shrug, engrossed in setting up a board game on the dining table. Mom is in the kitchen, preoccupied with frosting. SIL is nowhere to be seen. I slip away from the others and quietly head down the hallway toward the bedrooms. As I get closer to my old bedroom door, now a home office for my parents, I hear a faint voice inside. I recognize the tone immediately. It's my voice. Or rather, someone speaking in a performative, overly polite version of my voice. My heart is hammering now. I gently try the doorknob. It's locked. Pressing my ear to the door, I can make out SIL's muffled voice, but she's clearly saying words I would never say in her situation. Yes, I can confirm the last 4 of my social security are 7652. Yes, that's correct. She's reciting my social security number. Rage and adrenaline surged through me. I take a step back, then slam my shoulder into the door. The cheap old lock busts open, and the door flies inward. Sil is standing there, my phone pressed to her ear. On the phone screen, I can see the call timer still running. Her eyes are huge, caught in the act. For a split second, none of us move. She's too stunned to even hang up the call. The voice on my phone is mine. Time seems to freeze. My parents and brother rush in behind me, drawn by the sound of the door crashing open. Silence hangs thick in the air as they take in the scene. Me panting with anger, the door half off its hinges, and Sil caught literally red-handed with my ringing phone pressed to her ear. For a moment, the only sound is the tinny voice of the person on the other end of the call saying, "Sir, hello, are you still there?" Sil finally pulls the phone away from her ear, fumbling to hit the end call button. I snatch the phone from her hand before she can do anything else. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I roar, my voice coming out louder than I ever expected. My father steps forward, looking between us in confusion and shock. "What is going on?" he demands. Sil's face morphs rapidly from shock to her well-practiced look of wounded innocence. This isn't what it looks like," she stammers, real tears starting to form in her eyes. "I was just what?" I snap. "Just pretending to be me? Canceling my life behind my back?" My hands are trembling, but I hold up my phone. The call log on the screen clearly shows the number she had been connected to, the county tax office. The realization hits my parents and brother at the same time. She was on my phone with a government office, likely finalizing that fraudulent address change or worse. My mother gasps, "Oh my goodness, were you impersonating him?" She sounds horrified. My brother, Dan, goes straight to anger. "There has to be some misunderstanding," he barks, but his voice is unsure now. He turns to his wife. "Tell us you were doing what it sounds like." Sil's lip quivers. For a split second, I see fear in her eyes, but then she explodes. The fake tears vanish, replaced by raw fury. "Fine. You want the truth?" she screams, her voice cracking. "Yes, I did it. I made those calls. And I'd do it again, too." My mother is in tears, clutching my dad's arm as if to keep herself from collapsing. Between sobs, she chokes out, "We welcome you into our family. How could you do this to our son?" My father steps toward Sil, anger and disbelief on his face. "Do you even realize what you've done?" he growls. "You committed serious crimes, fraud, identity theft. You could go to jail." Dan looks utterly broken. He whispers, "How could you do this?" Whether he's talking to her or himself is unclear. Sil huffs and crosses her arms, now in full tantrum mode. "Oh, don't act so surprised," she spits at Dan. "You knew we needed that house. I just actually did something about it." Dan's face turns even paler. He stammers, I never asked you to do this." It seems he truly had no idea of the lengths she went to. She cuts him a withering look and then rounds on me, years of pent-up venom spewing out. "You don't deserve that house, or that life. You waltz in after years of leaving us behind, and you think you're better than us with your own home and your rules." She points an accusatory finger at me, her whole body shaking. "We have 4 kids. 4. We needed that house, but you're too selfish to share, even though you're family. So, yeah, I tried to take some of your privileges away. You've had it coming for a long time." My brother interjects weakly, "Honey, stop, this isn't." But she silences him with a glare. "No, they need to hear this." She turns to my parents, gesturing wildly. "All I ever wanted was to build a better future for your son and grandkids. But she jabs her finger at me, "he was going to wreck our family's future with his selfishness. I wasn't about to let that happen." There it is. The twisted motive laid bare. She honestly believed she was saving her own family by destroying mine. My father, usually stoic, is trembling with anger. You planned all this," he says in a hushed, enraged tone. "How could you?" My mother is still crying, looking at Sil with genuine hurt in her eyes. "We treated you like our own daughter," she sobs, "and you repay us by attacking our son." Dan looks utterly defeated. He steps away from Sil, shaking his head like he can't believe the woman in front of him. "I never wanted this," he says to her softly. She rounds on him. "Oh, please, don't pretend you didn't benefit. You knew how much we needed that house." Dan opens his mouth, then closes it at a loss. I stand there feeling a mix of vindication and rage. My life was nearly torn apart by this woman's entitlement. I take a slow, deliberate breath and address all of them, my voice surprisingly calm now. Now you see what I've been dealing with, I say softly. She wasn't joking or pranking. She was systematically trying to erase my life, my mail, my accounts, my home, all of it. I shake my head and turn toward my parents. And when I tried to tell you, you called me crazy. My parents both start apologizing and sputtering at once. We didn't know, we never imagined. My brother just keeps whispering, "How could you do this?" at Syl like he's in a daze. Sil rolls her eyes at their reactions and mutters, "Oh, spare me. All of you benefited when I tried to knock him down a peg. I've heard enough." I turn to Dan, who flinches as if I might hit him. I've never seen my little brother look so small. Dan, I say evenly, I love you, but if you had any part in this, or if you ever let her near anything of mine again, I'm done with you. He starts to protest, to insist he didn't know. I hold up my hand. No, you listen to me now. I can feel years of hurt and anger rising in my throat. I have put up with a lot from you and this family. But this, trying to steal my life, my future, this is beyond the pale. I'm going to protect what's mine. I will go to the police with this. Sil lets out a shrill little laugh of disdain. You would actually turn in family after everything we've done for you? She snarls. My eyes widen. Everything you've done for me? You mean kicking me out when it suited you? Mocking me when I was homeless? Trying to con me out of my home? I laugh bitterly. If that's family, I want no part of it. I look at my parents, who are watching with faces full of sorrow and regret. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, but I can't do this anymore. If you continue to side with them after seeing all this, consider me gone. My voice cracks a bit on that last part despite my resolve. This is the hardest thing I've ever said to them, but I mean every word. My father looks down, ashamed, and quietly says, "We're not siding with them. Not after this. Do what you need to do, son." My mom nods through tears. It's clear they are horrified by Syl's actions and equally horrified at themselves for not believing me. There's a heavy sadness in the room now, but also a sense of clarity. I take one last look at my fuming sister-in-law and my devastated brother. There's so much I want to say, years of injustice and hurt, but I swallow it down. I'll be in touch, I say softly to my parents. To Dan, I add, I hope you understand why I have to do this. Then I walk out of the house. I don't stay for cake or presents. I don't stay to watch my once close family crumble into an argument. I step out into the cool night air, get into my car, and drive away, leaving them to process what just happened. As I drive, a strange calm washes over me. For the first time in a long time, I stood up completely for myself. I defended my life without compromise. I think about what comes next. Either I let this go and try to rebuild quietly, always looking over my shoulder, or I ensure she faces real consequences. Either my life gets smaller, or hers does. I choose the latter. I hesitated for a long time before making my next move. This was my own family, after all. Part of me felt sick at the idea of getting law enforcement involved, and possibly ripping the family apart. I pictured my innocent nieces and nephews and how my brother would struggle if their mom went to jail. But then I replayed how close I'd come to losing everything because of her. She hadn't hesitated to try and ruin me. I knew in my heart that if I backed down now out of misplaced loyalty, I would be signing up to live in fear forever. I needed official backup. That same night, I painstakingly compiled every piece of evidence I had. Emails, phone records, the address change confirmations, the credit inquiries, screenshots of the bogus cancellations, and even the nasty text Sil sent me. I backed up the call log from my phone showing the county office call. I wrote down everything that happened at the birthday in chronological order while it was fresh in my mind. Then I contacted the police non-emergency line and reported the identity theft and fraud. By the next morning, I was explaining my case to a detective who fortunately took it very seriously. Filing a police report created an official record of the crime, which is invaluable when disputing fraudulent charges or accounts later. I handed over copies of my evidence. The officer informed me that what my sister-in-law did wasn't just a family matter, it was a series of felonies. He said I shouldn't feel guilty about pursuing it just because the culprit was family. A crime is a crime, and I had every right to defend myself. Hearing the word felony made my stomach twist, but I knew I was doing the right thing. When my family found out I had involved the police, it was pandemonium. My mother was the first to call, her voice shaking with panic. Between sobs, she pleaded with me, "Please, don't ruin her life over this. She's got the children. We can work this out as a family, can't we?" Hearing my own mom beg on behalf of the person who tried to destroy me was almost harder than anything else. I replied as calmly as I could, "I'm not trying to ruin anyone's life, Mom, but she nearly ruined mine. I have to protect myself." There was a long silence, just my mother's ragged breathing on the line. Then, quietly, she admitted she understood and let me go. The next morning, my brother showed up on my doorstep. His eyes were bloodshot and his face was streaked with tears. As soon as I opened the door, he practically fell into me, babbling apologies. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't know, I should have believed you. I've been such a terrible brother." He was shaking. After I let him in, he wiped his eyes and then begged me, "Please, please don't let them take her to jail. Our kids, they need their mom. Tell me what I have to do to fix this." It was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had. I told him plainly, "She destroyed my life first. I have to protect myself." I did, however, make it clear that I wasn't out for vengeance. I just needed this on record and needed her completely out of my affairs. The police paid SIL a visit to interview her, and from what I hear, it scared her straight. The detective even assured me that if she ever dared to try something like this again, they would not hesitate to bring the hammer down and charge her. In the end, I decided not to push for an immediate arrest on the condition that she would cooperate fully in undoing any damage. My brother and parents agreed that she would have to face some consequences within the family as well. I also considered pursuing civil action for the turmoil she caused, but since I caught everything in time before any major financial loss, I decided it wasn't worth the additional stress. The damage she did was mostly emotional, and that would take time to heal. Over the next week, a lot changed. With the police report in hand, I worked with my bank, credit card company, and other institutions to restore my accounts and secure them tighter than Fort Knox. Every company got a copy of the police report and flagged my accounts for potential fraud. I put a freeze on my credit reports, which goes beyond a fraud alert. It completely blocks any new credit from being opened in my name until I unlock it with a secret PIN. I also had letters and email confirmations sent to me verifying that no changes can be made to my utilities, insurance, or mortgage without my direct approval in person or via my password. One by one, I checked off every loose end that Syl had tried to exploit. True to their word, my parents did not sweep this under the rug. They were furious with Syl. My father, usually a composed man, demanded that she write me a letter of apology and start attending counseling if she wanted to continue living under his roof. My mother told me privately that she was utterly ashamed for not seeing through Syl's behavior sooner. As for my brother, he was a mess of guilt and confusion. He offered to pay for a locksmith to change all the locks on my house. I took him up on that without hesitation, just in case she had somehow swiped a spare key from me at some point. I even installed a few outdoor security cameras around my property for good measure. It's sad that it came to that, but it helps me sleep easier at night. He also removed SIL from any access to their joint finances. For now, I think even he wasn't sure if she'd steal his identity next, given what she'd done. I eventually received the apology letter SIL was compelled to write. It rambled for 2 pages, mixing half-hearted apologies with plenty of finger-pointing. She even wrote lines like, "I never meant to hurt you, but I felt I had no choice," which just made me shake my head. Reading it didn't soften my heart. If anything, it showed she still didn't fully grasp the damage she'd done, but I tucked the letter away with my other documentation. At least it was written proof of her wrongdoing and supposed regret. For my part, I made it crystal clear. I will have no contact with my sister-in-law from here on out. Family events, holidays, if she's there, I won't be. My parents, desperate to keep me in their lives, agreed that was reasonable. Dan, too, though it pained him, said he understood that his wife earned this exile. In time, I hope he finds a way to fix his family, but that's not my responsibility. I half expected some other kind of retaliation or craziness from my family after all this. In my darker moments, I even imagined them trying to break into my house or move in while I was away. Their entitlement truly knew no bounds. Thankfully, none of that happened. It seems the shock of being caught and facing police intervention finally brought them to their senses. at least for now. In the aftermath, I also took extra steps to protect myself. I got a second phone number and email address for important accounts, ones none of my relatives have. I invested in physical two-factor authentication keys for my primary email and financial logins. These are devices you must physically have to log in, making remote hacking nearly impossible. Call it paranoia if you want, but I call it peace of mind. My home and future were nearly stolen out from under me, and I'm determined never to let that happen again. Protect yourself. Key takeaways: vendor passwords. Set up secret code words or PINs with utilities, banks, and other companies so no one can make changes to your accounts by phone without that password. Fraud alert and credit freeze. If you suspect identity theft, contact the credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. A fraud alert is free and requires lenders to verify your identity before issuing credit. A credit freeze is even stronger. It completely locks down your credit file until you unlock it. It's free to freeze or unfreeze your credit, and it adds another layer of security. Two-factor authentication. Enable 2FA on all important accounts. Ideally use an authenticator app or a hardware security key, not just SMS codes, which can be intercepted via SIM swap. Secure passwords. Use strong, unique passwords for every account. A password manager can help, and keep sensitive documents locked away. That way, even if someone learns one of your credentials or digs through your trash, they can't easily access everything. Monitor and document. Keep an eye on your financial statements, credit reports, and even things like property records. At the first sign of strange activity, document everything. Save emails, take screenshots, note dates and times of phone calls. Police report. Don't hesitate to involve law enforcement for serious identity theft. It creates an official record that can help clear your name and deter the culprit. Remember, seeking help is about protection, not petty revenge. Disclaimer: this story is for general information only and not legal advice. Always consult a professional for personal legal matters. Epilogue. It's been a couple of months since that explosive birthday confrontation. My life is largely back to normal now, or perhaps a new, more cautious normal. I wake up in my own house with all my utilities humming, my bills coming to my mailbox where they belong, and my finances intact. I savor the simple peace of these moments, sipping my morning coffee on the porch, knowing that my mail is arriving as it should, and my accounts are secure once again. There are still emotional scars. Trust doesn't heal overnight. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process the breach of trust and the anxiety it caused. It's helping, little by little. I won't lie, it's been hard to come to terms with the fact that my own family, my own sister-in-law, was willing to stab me in the back so deeply. But I'm healing. I'm finding solace in the support of a few close friends, and even a couple of extended family members who were appalled by Syl's actions and reached out to me. Naturally, the family grapevine was soon buzzing about what happened. I even made sure to directly tell a few relatives my side of the story before SIL could spin any lies. Some relatives were horrified and called to offer support or nosily get details, while a few others muttered that involving police was going too far. I pay that no mind. Those who truly care understand that I did what I had to do. My parents have been trying to rebuild trust with me as well. They've kept their word about holding Syl accountable. I hear she's been begrudgingly going to therapy and was forced to volunteer at a community center as a form of penance. My mom's idea. Do I think she's truly sorry? I have my doubts, but at least now she and the rest of my family know I won't be an easy target ever again. I've drawn my line in concrete. You mess with my life, you're out of it. As for Dan, we're slowly rebuilding our brotherly bond, very slowly. Part of me is still angry that he stood by while his wife tried to ruin me, but another part of me sees his own pain and guilt. He's been humbled by all this. He's been doing everything he can to prove that he supports me, from small gestures like sharing credit monitoring alerts he set up on our names, to larger ones like openly acknowledging to the whole family that what happened was entirely unacceptable. I know it's hard for him being stuck in the middle, but he learned a harsh lesson about enabling his wife's behavior. Only time will tell if she truly changes or if he can handle it if she doesn't. Even now, I sometimes wonder what was really going through my sister-in-law's head during all this. Did she actually convince herself that what she was doing was justified? Perhaps she felt desperate to secure her kid's future and blinded herself to the immorality of her actions. Or maybe she's just always been vindictive and saw an opportunity to take me down a peg. It's probably a mix of both. I realize I may never get a satisfying answer, and I've made peace with that. One bright spot in all of this is how much I learned about protecting myself. I've become almost an unofficial expert on personal security through painful experience, admittedly. In fact, my boss even asked me to share my experience in a safety meeting at work, and my coworkers were stunned but grateful to learn from what happened to me. It feels good to turn this ordeal into something positive. If my story can spare even one person from falling prey to an identity thief, that's a win in my book. In the end, I'm grateful that I caught the sabotage before it cost me my home or my credit for good. I've heard of victims who spent years, even decades, repairing the damage from identity theft. Thankfully, I stopped this in time, but not everyone is so lucky. If even your family can betray you, you have to stay vigilant. I've learned to listen to my instincts. Those early warning signs, the odd emails, the slip-ups, were telling me the truth. I almost ignored them because I couldn't imagine my own kin doing this. Never again. I'll trust my gut and the evidence no matter who it points to. Despite everything, I do hope my family can heal from this in the long run. Forgiveness is hard, and I'm not ready to forget what happened. But I'd like to think we might find a way to be family on new terms someday. My house feels like a safe haven again. My name, my identity, is back under my control where it belongs. And if I ever sense someone trying to mess with it again, I'll be ready. Sometimes, protecting yourself means making the hard choice to stand up to those who expect your unconditional trust. I made that choice, and it saved my future. In the end, I hope my ordeal serves as a cautionary tale. Trust your instincts, secure your life, and remember that help is available if you ever find yourself in a similar nightmare. Stay safe.